this one.
Ty Dillon will win in the Windy City for his third victory on the season.
This could be 5 out of 11 this year.
Closing in on 50%.
None better than Ty Dillon at Iowa Speedway. He wins his 7th career race. Ty Dillon, his 9th career win in the ARCA Racing Series.
He has won over 50% of the races that he started.
The official hardware for Ty Dillon, a champion named here today at Toledo.
Welcome back to Daytona International Speedway. Joining us here in the broadcast booth is Ty Dillon, your 2011 champion. 22 career starts, 9 wins, 7 of those coming last year in your championship season, 19 top 10s. That was the reason he was able to hoist the hardware at the end of the year. He's going to be up here calling the race with us for a few more segments, but first let's go back down to Jim Trado.
Just a quick thought, guys, while we have a moment. Rick Corelli is spotting for the number 6 Ream Chevrolet for the driver of Cale Gale. Cale's never been to Daytona in a car, and he's got a full-time truck schedule ahead of him with Eddie Sharp Racing. What they've done is surrounded that driver with veterans. Jerry Baxter on the pit box, Rick Corelli in the spotter stand. This is kind of typical here in the ARCA Racing Series, where you've got former crew chiefs of champion cup drivers like Paul Andrews coming to the ARCA Series. Ben Leslie now with Sean Corr. A lot of veteran leadership leading these young drivers on the racetrack. And Rick Corelli had a long discussion with his driver as he was leading and then got passed by a number of cars here to drift back to 4th about how that plays out in the race and what their strategy may be. So as much as these drivers are new to the racetrack, a number of them are surrounding themselves with veterans in the pit box. And Ty, I don't know if you recognize the number 6, but that car was your Speedway backup car they bought off of RCR. Never raced, brand new car for Cale, but certainly a fast bullet here in that 6 machine for Eddie Sharp Racing.
Did it look familiar?
Yeah, it does. You know, I walked through the garage earlier today. All the cars were lined up, and there's quite a few RCR cars that in the field that are really running good. I know Steve Blackman, the 94, and Drew Charleston is in my car that I ran at Daytona and Talladega. So those guys look like they're doing really good, and it shows that the RCR cars are looking pretty.
We'll see how Brandon McReynolds does as he is out in front of the field for this restart. Ryan Reed just behind him in the 15. Wyndham, Cale Gale back there in 6th, and Chris Buescher running in the 6th. Chris Buescher in the 5th spot. There's the father of the race leader, Larry McReynolds, on the right side of the screen. And coming into the trioval once again, green flag back in the air. We're back underway. Working their way into turn number 1. We see the 44 of Frank Kimmel making the move on the high side, trying to get some positions on the restart.
Has some help from the number 5 of Bobby Gerhardt. So obviously the most experience in this field, Frank and Bobby, and they're working together right now.
And would Frank Kimmel's resume not be complete if he couldn't win at Daytona? Because this is one racetrack he has never won at.
Yeah, I don't know if you can call his resume missing anything. 9-time champion, winner of 74 races, but I know he would love to get one here. And this is a new situation for Frank. We haven't talked about it a whole lot. He's not with the family team anymore. He's gone over to Thorsport Racing, who's had so much success in the truck series, and they started this ARCA team for Frank.
There you see the 44 of Frank Kimmel hugging that yellow line right behind Ed Kennedy in the 00. Ty Dillon joining us up here in the booth. You somewhat run in a family business, I guess, with grandfather Richard Childress making sure that you've got good equipment to race in week in and week out. That's important to you, obviously, family.
It really is. I couldn't imagine racing without my family involved in it. You know, my grandfather, my dad, my mom, my brother, just everybody. We're all so involved in our race team and in the sport. And you know, it's a tough deal when a family team breaks up. You hate to see that, but sometimes you got to move on. I know Frank's got a lot of cool things going on with Thorsport, and he's going to have a great year with those guys.
Brandon McReynolds still out in front as we've completed the 25th lap of 80-lap race on lap number 26 now.
Everybody's staying in line right now. He's got 3 guys right behind him. Brandon does that have never been here before. Ryan Reed, Chris Wyndham, and Cale Gale we talked about.
Ryan Reed again started this race on the outside of row number 1. A little shuffling went on after a few pit stops, and riding along with the pole winner Sean Corr in that race car. We were just in the middle of a 3 wide there, and I'm sure that gets to be a little bit nerve-wracking here at Daytona, going over 180 miles an hour. That 82 of Sean Corr now on the outside of 2 wide racing.
Yeah, they've got a good little pack going now. Steve Blackburn, the 94 car, is leading that pack. There he is right there, right in front of Sean Corr. Here's Paulie ARCA, the 55 on the inside.
And again, you don't see these cars moving up and bump drafting. You see a little bit of a cushion in between each one. And again, the ARCA officials have told them there is no contact in the corners. You're not allowed to bump draft in the corners. They said on the straightaways, if you get a run and you can help another driver or you can work together as a tandem, that's fine. But once you get to the corners, you are supposed to separate.
And part of that reason is, as we talked earlier, there are 24 drivers making their first ever start here. Now you get to the Cup Series and Nationwide Series, those guys have a lot of experience here for the most part. Again, so many of these drivers so young and just getting their first attempt at racing at Daytona, they don't need to be pushing all the way around this racetrack.
Yeah, and I know last year at Talladega we were kind of riding along like this. I was out front, and the race was kind of real calm. And then all of a sudden, Chad McCumbee and Frank Kimmel got together and hooked up with a tandem draft, and it threw a whole new curveball into the game there at Talladega. And so everybody kind of started scrambling around, and it really turned out to be a really great race. And trying to see if that's going to happen here tonight. I know they can't draft in the corners, but they might be able to slow up and bump each other. I know it looks like these guys are starting to get a line formed on the outside, and if they can hold still long enough, they might be able to push to the front.
Now, how difficult is it, Ty? I mean, obviously last year, your first race of the season last year at Daytona was your first ARCA start at Daytona, and a lot of drivers were thinking about trying to go with the 2-car tandem.
Yeah, it was kind of an eye-opening deal. I was ready for it, but I didn't know how I was going to do it. Never being at a super speedway, never drafting in the first place at all. And a lot of these guys are in the same situation. You just kind of got to learn on the fly. And the best thing I could do is follow somebody with a lot of experience who's done it before. And it looks like if I was out there, I'd be trying to follow Frank Kimmel or Bobby Gerhardt around here.
You're not going to go too far wrong, probably.
Anybody, well, and we saw Chris Buescher learn that lesson a year ago because he latched onto the back bumper of Bobby Gerhardt and never left his side. He didn't even challenge for the win at the end. He decided, hey, I'm going to finish second at Daytona. That's not bad in my first ARCA start at this big super speedway.
Some of the cars have spread out now. Bottom of your screen, that on the outside, that's Tom Hessert and Kenny Schrader's Federated Auto Parts car.
Josh Williams on the inside of him in the 02. See him going 2x2 now around the track.
That's the 28 of Drew Charlson, and one of the cars that Ty mentioned was the car that you actually raced here last year and Talladega.
Yeah, it is, and I think he's got some ECR engine in it, so it's very similar. It's even got the same decals as we ran last year, so glad to see that out there. I actually walked by and I saw a 41 under his headlight decal, so it got me a little excited. But
I wouldn't change much from what you had a year ago.
Yeah, we had a real fast car.
So Brandon McReynolds continues to pace the field around Daytona International Speedway, starting off the 2012 season. Friday, sparks will fly under the lights in Daytona as the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series kicks off the season with the wildest race of Speed Weeks. Don't miss the NASCAR Camping World Truck Series live from Daytona. That's Friday, 7 Eastern, only on Speed, your motorsports authority. And Ty Dillon will be in that race on Friday. He's joining us up here, the 2011 ARCA Racing Series champion, as we have completed 33 of the 80 laps, currently on lap 34 of this race, and pretty much everyone has pitted already. They've decided, some will have decided to not come back down pit road. Others may use pit strategy if a caution comes out later, but it's been Brandon Reynolds that has been pacing the field over the last 10 to 12 laps.
You know, a lot of these cars up front, almost everybody up front, probably back to about 12, pitted on lap number 9. We probably will need some more caution laps for them to make it all the way. Remember, Bobby Gerhardt pitted on lap number 5, and we had a total of 30 caution laps in this race. Right now, we've only had 12 laps total caution laps in this race.
A little steam coming out of the front of Alex Gregory there. We saw him working behind some of the other cars with that 78 showing a little bit of steam coming out of the overflow valve. But out in front, the 4 of Brandon McReynolds continues to pace the field. Jamie, how's that team feeling?
they're feeling pretty good right now. They're actually on the radio with Brandon, coaching him around the track, saying, you're doing great. Stick to that line. They can't catch you. Just keep doing what you're doing and go. But Brandon has another advantage. He's in a car that actually won this race back in 2009 with James Busher behind the wheel. So he knows he's got a good piece under him. He's got the guys in the pit car telling him he's doing a good job, and he's just keeping his head down and driving. Right?
You know, Jamie, I've been talking to some crew chiefs on my end of the pit road, and many of them said they need 18 more laps of caution in this race, the ones that came in on lap number 9. And as I said, Sean Corr and a few other of the drivers waited to lap 15 to pit. So interesting to see how this race plays out. Seems like it has a green feel right now, but some of these guys that gambled early, they still need caution.
Thanks, right. Seeing 3 wide. Again, that 78 I mentioned earlier, throwing a little bit of steam out. Alex Gregory on the inside line.
See Paula Haraka in the 55, one of the Venturini cars on the outside. Nelson Kanachi and another one of them in the 35 that was on the inside.
Pauly was one of the drivers that his time was disallowed for not passing post-qualifying inspection.
Yeah, the left front balance was about 1/8 of an inch too low, but it's a black and white situation. It's either right or it isn't. They put him to the back of the field. Fortunately, he was able to fall back on a provisional. Now he's trying to make his way back towards the front. Has Brett Hudson, who did such a great job. We were talking during a commercial, and Ty said that Brett Hudson really did a nice job at Talladega. He finished 4th in that race at Talladega. He's in the middle right now. Alex Bowman jumps to the rear bumper of the 55 of Pauly Haraka.
And there's 2 names right there that we mention a lot when we're doing the K&N Pro Series, both the East and West Series. Pauly Haraka as well as Alex Bowman racing in the K&N Pro Series, and this is the first start for Pauly Haraka in the ARCA Racing Series. And what bigger challenge to put in front of you than Daytona International Speedway? Have at it.
Yeah, but good practice for him too, because he will be here next week with Richie Waters' team in the Truck Series, scheduled to do a full season in the Truck Series for Richie Waters. So it's great experience to come here. And Ty, I know your first truck race is coming up next week here at Daytona, and I know this race you ran last year is going to be really valuable as far as experience goes.
I think it definitely will. Here in Talladega, really well prepared me for what's going to happen, I hope, and being able to have an older brother who did well here in Talladega. I can lean on his notes and what he's done and what he's seen, and Joey Coulter. So I got great teammates and great people around me that's going to hopefully make this weekend coming up pretty easy on me. You never know with Daytona what's going to happen, especially with these trucks as wild as they get. It's going to be an exciting race under the lights, so it's going to be a lot of fun.